I'm Gwen Preston of Resource Maven, and we're here at the Metals Investor Forum in Vancouver in November. It's our first live event, back to conferences in person, which we're very excited about. And I'm joined right now by Christie of Banyan Gold. Welcome to the Metals Investor Forum.
Thank you. This is Banyan's first Metal Investor Forum, and it's a great one to see people again.
So good.
So many investors here. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So I wanted to, you introduced the story in your presentation, to dive into a few things about it that investors might have some questions on. Let's talk about, you're surrounded by two miners. And clearly, I mentioned in my talk, the idea of takeouts is the heart and soul of the mining space. So let's talk about Victoria Gold. They're your neighbor. Yep. They have a scale mine, a mine of scale, and you guys have 1 million ounces. But I would say, and we'll get to this, you're on your way to having 3 million ounces, sort of right next door. Talk about why that might make sense. I'm not saying it's a guarantee by any means, but why might Victoria be interested in Banyan?
Well, any miner will be interested in Banyan. So Victoria Gold, they've signaled that they're working on their internal growth. They're drilling deep at Eagle. They're drilling their Raven and Nugget where they believe they have a resource. And they're also focused on getting their own production up to 250,000 ounces per year. And they've signaled that in the market. So why would they be interested in us? Well, if we get a 3 million ounce resource, and remember, Victoria Gold had 2 million ounces in reserves when they did their feasibility study. And that meant that they were a 200,000 ounce producer for 11 years.
Yeah.
So if that's the target, if that's the economics for the Yukon, you need to have 200,000 ounces per year for 10 years for a mine to be built. So that's what we need to get to. So if we have a 3 million ounce inferred resource, well, I think you'd be reasonable to think, wow, people will start to look at and make the parallels between Victoria Gold and what Banyan has. And it would be significant for a 200,000 ounce mine to purchase another property where they could double their production to 400,000 ounces. That's how you build a mid-tier miner. Yeah. You increase your production, you acquire things that are accretive. Victoria Gold would have the advantages of permitting in that if they were to acquire a Banyan that's proximal to them, they could be an amendment and use their existing infrastructure, which gives them a bit of an advantage over external potential acquirers. But I also think at 3 million ounces, the economics could be there to bring in another, and that's how you get competition for a project. So I've got 3 heap leach mine builders in my share registry. My job's to go find another one and really add value. And, I think we've got a little bit of time because Victoria Gold's really still showing the market that they can produce cash, working on. So, I don't want them to even think about it too quickly because we can add so much value. And that's, of course, my goal. I'm a big shareholder personally.
For sure. Let's talk about adding value. We were chatting just before we started filming about the pace at which you're drilling and what that drilling is showing. And the resource that is currently stated is based on 56 drill holes. You've done 120 since then. So just on a drill hole count and knowing that they all hit, it seems like there's a lot of growth there. But yeah, talk a little bit about what you think the holes are adding. You mentioned 3 million ounces. That's a number that you're not shy of.
And yeah, I think that that's an important number. I've said why. So it's our internal target. So we're at power line. You'll notice we did 100-meter space grid. 100-meter spaced holes is a really big step out. So, you can look at, and even at 0.5, people could do the math on what would a cylinder or a square with the 50-meter radius be, even 50 meters of 0.5.
Right.
Never mind some of the 194 meters of 0.74 and 68 meters of 1 gram that we've drilled. So, when you add up the ounces per hole, which is really rough kind of way to look at things. But I do think it's a valid way to think, okay, so we've got 3 drills turning today. We've got one up in the east and northern part, one up in the west northern part, and then we did decide to start to do some infill to really understand the variography and what it's going to take to convert this so that next year we have the option to really understand how much infill drilling we're going to need to move this forward. But really focused on that inferred resource. We still have the 18 holes that we drilled up at Oryx Hill, and we think it similarly has the potential for another near surface resource. So, we've really focused in just on these 3 targets. We do have regional targets too. We have 254 square kilometers in the area. We think our Nitra property that's a kilometer to the west looks just like Powerline.
Right. And another thing that I think it's important to remember, I forget, is that Powerline was a new discovery 2 years ago. And that speaks to the prospectivity of the area, the fact that it's underexplored, and the thing that you and I were chatting about also just before this, which is sort of just this region and the prospectivity of this part of the world.
And that can't be undervalued. You know, you can actually permit a heap leach mine in this jurisdiction. We're in a brownfield. We've got existing infrastructure across our property, highways, power line. You know, there are working in pristine areas is difficult to permit.
Sure.
That's well known. So, you know, those are big advantages to us. I think Victoria Gold will produce for way longer than their feasibility. I think it's 20, 30 years that this is really new, Canada's newest mining district. And we're right beside a highway. This wasn't known about before 2019. You know, the mineralization at Airstrip was known. In the turn of the century, there was some prospecting for gold, but the area was really prospected for silver. So the first gold assays really weren't done until the 80s. So, and then there was a prospector that took out some near surface material. He took out 16 tons of 2-ounce material in the western end of Airstrip. So that's a later phase of mineralization than what we're chasing, because we can predict this big bulk tonnage. But we know there's been at least 3 phases of gold mineralization. This is a very long-lived system. It's the same system that produced all the gold at Victoria Gold. So lots of targets for us to follow up on. You know, making that discovery in 2019, there was some 3 old holes that had been drilled there for assessment work. The company that hadn't really realized what the geological model was or how to put it together, we went back and just drilled, you know, we had 14 holes in that resource of 129,000 ounces at 0.61.
Right.
So early days, and now we know we've expanded it 600-700%, and we'll keep drilling till about December 15th, and then we'll pick it back up in late January, early February, and drill all through next year.
And that's another important, just to wrap up, that's another important thing. You're a Yukon project, but you're a year-round project.
We're a year-round project, and that's because of our infrastructure.
Yeah.
You know, the risk when you have to fly out to a project for safety is huge. We're a 35-minute drive to the Mayo nursing station if we need to.
Yeah,
we have
for
cell
sure.
phone service. It's which is a distraction, but it's a good, ultimately from a capital cost, it's a really good thing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I certainly look forward to keeping up with the news. I'm sure the lab delays are somewhat frustrating for you, but as they are for everyone. But it just, you do have, I mean, you've just been hammering that place with holes and with a very high success rate. So I look forward to seeing the results and seeing when we can get to this 3 million ounce mark.
Awesome. Hopefully you can come up for another site tour next year. That would be
lovely.
Terrific. And yeah, it should be exciting. Thank you very much, Gwen.
Thanks so much.